Oh, you fell down the rabbit hole? That's one big woolly rabbit hole. Heart skipped a few. Okay, let's catch you up. Episode 6 was a little short, so this one runs long. Let's just call it 6-7 trending. Last time, Quinn and Rube helped activist Lorie capture drone footage that showed thousands of woolly rabbits moving in coordinated herds, then watched the hillside collapse the moment the red-furred one gave a silent order. Lorie survived the rock slide with a broken leg. The rabbits vanished underground. The company fenced the whole area off and called it a geological incident, or, in their words, bad at picking burrow spots. Quinn called it a warning. Rube called it trauma with ears. The camera drifted over another landslide, bigger this time, wider. Roads curled like old film strips, houses on the edge, leaning as if they were reconsidering gravity itself. Back at the town diner, Rube and Quinn sat in their usual booth for an early breakfast. It was the kind of diner that never closed and never quite cleaned up. Chrome-trimmed counters, red vinyl seats patched with duct tape, and windows fogged by the eternal war between coffee steam and fried bacon. A TV with old antenna ears buzzed over the counter, struggling to hold a channel. Open quote, "Rock slides continue to close the main highway. Authorities urge residents to avoid tunnels and bridges. Reports suggest that burrows belonging to the so-called woolly rabbits have taken over." Close quote. Rube sighed and hit the mute button. The silence was almost louder than the news. Across from him, Quinn had a folded paper map spread between the ketchup bottle and a cup of cold coffee. Red Sharpie X's marked every route in and out of town like a quarantine diagram. She tapped one of the X's. "That's the last bridge still standing." Rube leaned in, chewing on a piece of French toast gone lukewarm. "And you're sure your professor can't get through?" She nodded. "He tried taking the long way around, but they've declared the whole area a no-fly zone. Said the rabbits were blocking the back roads." She glanced out the window, frowning. "There's either way more of them than we realize, or they're feeling vibrations, communicating across distance like a long-distance drumline made of paws." Rube shrugged, half smirking. "Yeah, or maybe that's just a bonus. Personally, I think they're trolling." The waitress slid by, dropped 2 fresh plates on the table, and muttered, "Sorry, no cinnamon this morning. Supply truck didn't make it through." Rube froze mid-bite. "No cinnamon on my French toast? Oh, now this is personal." Quinn laughed softly. "Add it to the list of national crises." He stared past her, out through the fogged window. Dozens of woolly rabbits sat in a line at the intersection, just sitting, watching cars turn, letting some go, stopping others. Like traffic cops who couldn't be fired. Quinn's voice dropped. "What are we going to do if they won't let anyone in or out?" Rube didn't answer. He just stared back at the rabbits, who stared right through the glass at him. Waitress glanced up from behind the counter, towel slung over her shoulder, drying a mug that had probably been dry for 10 minutes. "Oh, don't worry. You can leave. They move out of the way if you're headed the right direction. Darndest thing." She set the mug down, grabbed another. "I live over by the East Bridge. First few days couldn't even get to work. Took forever. Almost open late." She laughed softly, tired, not amused. "But now, they let me right through, as long as I'm going straight home from town. But they don't move any farther than that." Her eyes drifted toward the diner window while she talked, voice dropping to something almost confessional. "Almost like they know where I live. Made me walk to the neighbor's place when I told him I'd bring home some sandwiches. Thought maybe it was just me being spooked. But nope, he said the same thing. They can all get home, but no farther." She shrugged, like saying it out loud might make it sound normal. "Guess it's polite in a real specific way." Rube leaned back, frowning. "They're curating traffic now?" Quinn marked another X on the map. The paper was starting to look like a maze drawn by something underground. Outside, a delivery van rolled past, its muffler rattling like a dying cough. The decal on the side read, "Rusty Pete's Auto Repair. If it runs, we'll stop it." A slogan came over the radio jingle, still faintly tuned in from the kitchen. "Rusty Pete's, where the sparks still fly. We'll patch your ride before the next landslide." Rube snorted, half laughing through his coffee. "Guess some of the economy's still running," he muttered. "Just not far." When the waitress came back with their check, he ordered the classic special to go: tuna melt, tricolor tortilla chips, and a chocolate milk in a white foam cup. For Lorie, he said, already digging bills out of his pocket. Hospital food's a crime. Quinn added her order quietly, eyes low. Just a regular turkey club, potato chips, in case the tuna doesn't hold. Her voice softened, not from hunger, but from the thought of trying to reach that hospital at all. A few minutes later, they were rolling through the side streets in old Volts, the faded green VW bus that coughed every time it met a pothole. The dashboard still smelled faintly of crayons and milkshakes from 100 road trips, ghosts of every bad decision that ended in laughter. They'd already tested what the waitress had said, easing through the narrow roads, stopping when the rabbits gathered, turning when they parted. And it was true. If you headed the right way, the rabbits moved. If not, they sat there like walls of fur and silence. They'd mapped a path, crude, hand-drawn lines from diner napkins to asphalt, one that should take them to the hospital without crossing the main bridge. They turned the last corner, and Quinn felt her stomach twist. There were more rabbits here than anywhere else, a living barricade at the edge of town. Dozens, maybe hundreds. The road shimmered with motion, fur rippling like waves in slow motion. Rube eased Old Volts to a stop, engine sputtering in protest. "Okay, this is new," he said, already climbing out. He nudged one with his boot. It didn't move. "Hey, move, Thumper. Medical emergency." Nothing, just the soft, steady sound of breathing everywhere at once. He turned back toward the van. "They're not budging." Quinn shoved open her door, stepping into the sunlight, voice cracking before she could stop it. "We just need to get through. We're going to the hospital to visit our friend." The rabbits all turned toward her at once, hundreds of tiny eyes, glinting like glass. She swallowed hard. "She wouldn't even have been hurt if it wasn't for you." The words hung there, half accusation, half plea. Then one enormous shape rose from the center of the crowd. A dark, dark red rabbit, almost black in the sun. It leapt 20 feet into the air, flipped once, and landed with a quake that rolled through the ground. And then the herd began to move. Not away, not aggressive, just parting. A narrow path opened straight down the middle of the road. Rube blinked. "That's more than a coincidence." Quinn didn't answer. She climbed back into Old Volts, hands trembling on the wheel. They drove forward in silence, the rabbits watching from both sides, perfectly still, perfectly calm, until the last one turned its head and let them pass. The hospital smelled like lemon cleaner and tired hope. Quinn and Rube walked the flickering hallway with takeout bags swinging at their sides, tricolor tortilla chips, a tuna melt wrapped in greasy paper, and a chocolate milk sweating through its cup. Lorie's room waited at the end, half lit by the glow of a TV. Her own interview played on mute, her face looping silently across the screen like a ghost that didn't know it was one. The only sound was the slow, patient beep of the monitor beside her bed. Lunch tray untouched. A square of red Jell-O slumped in its dish, halfway to soup. She didn't look bad, just restless. One leg hoisted in a cast covered in signatures, doodles, and a single warning that simply read, "Don't." Her thumb scrolled through a storm of comments. Faker, rabbit rights, clout chaser. She'd stopped replying hours ago. Quinn hesitated in the doorway, Rube right behind her. The smell of diner grease followed them in, strangely comforting, like something from before all this. Rube set the bag on the table and flashed his best grin, the kind that said, "Hey, we didn't break anything else on the way here." Lorie looked up, tired but trying. "They didn't aim for me," she said, voice barely louder than the monitor's pulse. "They aimed for the roads." She rubbed at her cast, frustration in every motion. "I'm stuck here. Infection's still clearing up. Not bad enough to keep me trapped, but bad enough that I'm losing my mind. Cabin fever. Full throttle." Rube opened the bag and slid the chocolate milk toward her like an offering. "Then consider this your temporary parole," he said, "courtesy of the outside world." The corners of Lorie's mouth twitched. For a brief, merciful moment, the room didn't smell like lemon cleaner anymore. Just fries, guilt, and the faintest trace of normal. The hospital hummed like it was thinking, air vents breathing, monitors whispering, lights buzzing with that high, endless pitch. Quinn leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "They might have just picked a bad spot to dig," she muttered. "Nobody said they're smart." Her side eye hit Rube, because he definitely said they were. Rube raised a brow, wearing that half grin that always tried to lighten a room. I still say they've got a plan. Maybe a bad one, but it's a plan. Lorie shook her head, scrolling through her phone again. Or maybe they saw the traffic and wanted to stop more people from coming here. Rube nodded toward the untouched tray. Maybe I'll take the Jell-O, but you got anything better to trade? The joke hit flat, sliding into the kind of silence hospitals specialize in. On the muted TV, her past self was still talking, confident, smiling, explaining things she didn't believe anymore. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder, filling the space where laughter should have been. Lorie finally set the phone down. Couple things I don't get, she said. One, you two seemed jumpy, like you were expecting what happened out there. And two, she hesitated, voice thinning, the woolly rabbits weren't tunneling a new burrow. Quinn and Rube froze. Lorie looked past them, like she could still see it. I got clear for a second, thought I was safe, then slipped trying to reach solid ground. I saw it, the red one. It came up right beside me. Her hand trembled against the blanket. I must have blacked out after hitting my head, but the EMT said they wouldn't have found me if it wasn't standing over me. Just waiting. The TV flickered, cutting to breaking news. A crisp voice delivered disaster with a smile. Open quote, officials say the slides are a coincidence caused by heavy rainfall and, quote, the weight of the rabbits disturbing already loose soil. Close quote, on screen, the image showed a third collapse. This one right on the only road out of town. But behind the reporter, the camera caught something else. A group of figures in white coats, walking the woods instead of the mountain. Quinn frowned. Why would they be investigating the ground around the road, not where the rocks came from? Rube didn't answer. Neither did Lorie. The monitor beeped once, then again. Steady but louder than before. Mac Movement Brainfire. Original stories that blur satire, sci-fi, and fantasy, told through lo-fi AI narration and raw imagination. 8 worlds, 1 vault, Mirror Between Us, Woolly Rabbits, Nurse Mystic, Galactic Tournament, The Replacements, Trace 3.5D, World Without Legacy, and Slip. Not AI slop, real ideas voiced by AI. If it made you think or laugh, hit like, subscribe, and join the chaos. Mac Movement, Brainfire, Pitchforks and Epiphanies, original fiction, AI art, DIY series, sci-fi, fantasy. But the footage told another story. A stretch of forest road split open like a scar. Dozens of people in white coats combing through the trees with clipboards and handheld scanners. Quinn frowned. Why would so many people be investigating the road instead of the mountain the rocks came from? She tried to convince herself. Maybe that's just cleanup crews, she said, but even she didn't sound like she believed it. Lorie didn't answer, didn't blink. The monitor beeped again, steady, louder, sharper, like it wanted to speak for her. The hum of the hospital stretched the silence until it felt alive. Then Lorie finally exhaled, eyes locked on the two of them. She'd been watching them since they walked in. Quinn's jaw tight enough to crack teeth, Rube's fingers tapping restlessly against his leg. You're not telling me everything, she said softly. And the scary part is, I think I already know why. Rube tried to grin it off, that cracked smirk that never quite reached his eyes. Nothing we'd say would make sense without diagrams and therapy. Quinn didn't laugh. Her voice came out low, careful. We've seen this before. The blocking, the hurting. It started in the tunnels. Lorie frowned. You mean that quarry thing? The one the news keeps spinning like it was some prank? Quinn nodded. Yeah, except the burrows weren't just burrows. They were connected to man-made tunnels. Smooth walls, wiring, cameras, not dirt, concrete. We found a map down there too. It showed a lab under half the town. Lorie blinked hard, like the words themselves bent gravity. Government serious or conspiracy serious? Quinn held her gaze. Both. Rube leaned forward, voice softer now. The huge, deep red one, it tried to bury us alive. Lorie gave a hollow little laugh. Yeah, I know the feeling. Quinn shook her head. Not with rocks, with soft dirt, like it didn't want to crush us, just cover us up. We were in what looked like a nursery. Thousands of green eyes staring at us. Lorie's voice went quiet. Nursery? They keep saying they can't breed. Neither of them answered. The monitor beeped again, long, steady, deliberate, like the room itself was holding its breath. The monitor ticked a few times before Quinn spoke again. There were thousands of smaller ones, she said. Their eyes glowed green in the dark, like chem lights when your flashlight passes over. but the deep red ones moved different, slower, like they were thinking. Lorie blinked but didn't interrupt. One of them bit Rube once, Quinn added. Didn't break the skin much. Felt more like a test than an attack. Rube rubbed his shin, half remembering. And one of them killed a whole pile of rattlesnakes, surrounded its burrow hole like trophies. We ran into it after the rock slide, still had one in its mouth when we snuck up on it by accident. Snapped it in half like nothing. He paused, shaking his head. Same kind of red one outside the quarry. Ate my beef jerky too. Ignored everything else. Quinn nodded slightly. It definitely ate that snake, though. We both saw it. Rube's voice dropped. Kinda cool, honestly. Slurped it up like spaghetti. The corner of Lorie's mouth twitched, but the humor didn't land. He almost said something about that day in the meadows. Started to. But Quinn cut him off with a sharp look. They'd agreed not to talk about that. Ever. Rube's voice softened into apology. Sorry. Silence filled the room again, thick as the hospital air. Lorie looked at both of them like they'd just confessed to finding ghosts under her bed. Like the whole world had been relabeled overnight, and the aisle she'd been shopping in wasn't what she thought it was. Then came her turn. Lorie leaned forward, fingers tracing the edge of her blanket. Okay, I get it. You're locals. Small town weird runs in the well water. But what do you mean you already knew all this? The question hung there, heavy, too big for the room. Rube spoke first, voice smaller than usual, stripped of its usual defense mechanisms. My dad's military, a general, been stationed nearby for months. He hesitated. Off the record. Lorie blinked. You're serious? Quinn nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. And my mom, she works for the company, not field work, PR, crisis management. She's the one who tells people to say everything's fine. The silence that followed wasn't awkward anymore. It was honest, thick, certain, and still. And in that stillness, all three of them felt it. The understanding that whatever was happening out there, it was bigger than any of them thought. Lorie broke the silence first. Then do something about it, she said. Quinn looked up. What do you mean? You said they're hurting. Planning. Prove it. Lorie's tone sharpened, the old fire sparking under the exhaustion. If the roads keep closing one by one, find the ones that haven't yet. Put your cameras there. Catch them in the act. Rube frowned. You want us to go back out there? We just told you we barely made it out last time. Lorie didn't blink. Yeah, and you're both still walking. I'm not. That landed like a slap. Not cruel, just true. She nodded toward Quinn's map folded on the tray table. Those X's you've been marking? If they're not random, then there's a pattern. So find the next one before it happens. Rube rubbed his face, muttering, We really gotta stop hanging out with people who give us homework. Quinn tried to smile, but couldn't. She folded the map back up, sliding it into her jacket. Fine, she said. We'll try. Lorie leaned back against the pillow, half smirking through the fatigue. Don't try, just be right, before they close the last road. The monitor hummed steady again, matching the pulse in Quinn's chest. When they left the hospital, the sky looked bruised, purple and gray, the kind that promised rain but never kept its word. The drive back through town was quiet. The rabbits weren't blocking the roads anymore, but that was almost worse. They just watched from the ditches, perfectly still, like traffic cones with a pulse. Quinn kept both hands on the wheel. Rube kept both thoughts to himself. After a while, she said what they'd both been thinking since the quarry. Lorie's right. We have to stop doing this alone. Rube didn't argue, just sighed, thumbed his phone awake. If we can't say sorry, he said, we can at least do something dumb together. Quinn almost smiled. That was enough. By early afternoon, they were parked outside Rusty's Auto and Odd Jobs, the only garage in town still powered by caffeine, duct tape, and bad ideas. The air smelled like oil, hot metal, and carrot-scented air fresheners, Rusty's long-running joke since the 90s. Inside, Quinn had already made the call for backup. Her friends were waiting. Jess and Kara, the Fairbooth girls from this summer, still looked like opposites that refused to cancel each other out. Kara was sunshine and caffeine, her words tripping over themselves to get out first. Jess stood beside her, arms crossed, sarcasm locked and loaded. Finally, Jess said, spotting them. The Ghostbusters return. Kara grinned. So, this is him, huh? The mystery guy? You've been holding out on us. Rube raised an eyebrow. Mystery guy? Quinn didn't correct them, but she didn't say they were wrong either. Behind the counter, Rusty Pete was welding something he probably shouldn't have been welding indoors. Sparks leapt across the room like fireflies on caffeine, lighting up grease-stained posters, cracked license plates, and a half-dismantled jukebox that hadn't played since before any of them were born. The air vibrated with the kind of noise that meant something reckless was about to happen, and everyone in that room already knew it. Rube tried to make introductions, but Rusty had already locked eyes on old Volts, the van's green paint dulled by dust and too many apologies. He circled it once, muttering like a doctor diagnosing an old patient. His hands twitched for tools. Then, without warning, he grabbed a saw and started cutting. Quinn opened her mouth to protest right as the front panel clanged to the floor. Rusty didn't even flinch. "Fixing your airflow," he said around a wad of chewing tobacco. Then he spat into an oil can and grinned. "Should nudge those woolly suckers out of the way nice and easy." He welded the panel back on. Reshaped into a smooth V, a homemade bumper plow, greased up with something from an unlabeled jug that smelled like both butter and diesel. "Slides better than chrome in a rainstorm," he bragged, wiping his hands. "I call it rabbit wax." The next hour blurred together, sparks flashing from Rusty's torch, Kara pacing and bouncing ideas off the walls, Jess scribbling coordinates across a pile of napkins like a caffeine-fueled cartographer. The shop was a storm of noise and motion, all under the hum of old fluorescent lights and that everlasting carrot air freshener swinging above the register. Outside, the sky deepened to the color of wet steel. Inside, the plan took shape. They laid the town map flat on Rusty's workbench, the edges curling from grease and heat. Using everything they'd learned, where the slides had happened, which bridges were gone, which tunnels stayed suspiciously clean, they began circling new targets. Jess tapped each X with the tip of her marker. "Here, here, and here. We plant the cameras tonight before anyone says it's all in our heads." Kara nodded. "We'll use the speakers again, same setup as before. Stick to the ridge lines. We can hike to most of these before dark." Rube leaned over the map, tracing the old highways and mountain curves. "If they're coordinating, these are the choke points. Every road that gets you out of town is on this list." No one spoke for a moment. The shop lights flickered, the smell of ozone and burnt metal hanging heavy in the air. Quinn just stared at the map. Not the roads, not the plan, but the spaces between them. The gaps where the ink didn't reach. Then she looked up. "We'll hit all three before nightfall," she said. "No waiting." Rusty grinned through his smoke. "Now that's the kind of bad decision I can get behind." When they finally climbed back into old Volts, Rusty handed Quinn a new air freshener shaped like a carrot. Called it a protection charm. Said vegans loved it, and maybe rabbits would too. Told her to hang it up, let them know she was one of them. She thanked him anyway. The engine coughed twice before catching, the sound more complaint than confidence. The radio flickered back to life through the static, the same jingle from earlier trying to fight its way through the fuzz. Then the static warped into a voice, half buried but familiar. Something about a galactic tournament recap. Earth accused of cheating in a sacred first match involving petrification. Their champion, Medusa, claiming life was hard when every man you look at turns. The transmission cut mid-sentence. Rube groaned, twisting the dial. Not that sci-fi garbage again. Whatever Rusty had done to the wiring, the radio clearly hated him. The road hummed under the tires as old Volts rolled east, the plow front gleaming dully under a bruised sky. Somewhere between laughter and nerves, the van carried them toward the next red X on the map. The trail to the ridge wasn't on most maps anymore, a narrow dirt cut that wound behind the old mine, half forgotten and half legend. Old Volts rattled its way up, tires chewing through gravel like old bones. Through the static, the mayor's voice came again, half swallowed by interference. Open quote, "The situation is fully under control." Close quote. Rube smacked the dial, and the voice dissolved into white noise. They passed Farmer Eugene Toiver's field on the way up. His crop duster lay crooked in the grass, one wing folded like a broken arm. "Maybe the rabbits didn't like sky surveillance either," Rube muttered. No one disagreed. They parked halfway up the ridge and took the rest on foot. The wind howled between the rocks, dragging dirt across the ledge in long, brown ribbons. Rube walked ahead with a stick, tapping the ground like a man testing his odds. Behind him, Quinn adjusted her pack, scanning the slope ahead. The mountain stretched upward, quiet, eerie, and waiting. Their goal was simple: get high enough to see the mountain road and prove the blockages were deliberate, not just bad burrow placement like the news kept claiming. They found a ledge overlooking most of the valley, a jagged outcrop that framed the twisting main road below. From up here, the trees looked soft and innocent, but the scars across the mountainside told a different story. Slides, sinkholes, and strange trails that cut too clean to be natural. Quinn set the first camera while Rube checked the angle, squinting through the viewfinder until the entire slope fit in frame. Spot 2 wasn't much use. Too narrow, too many shadows. But even there, faint trails moved through the brush, winding in deliberate arcs. Not random. Not yet. Maybe Professor R could hike up here, Quinn said, shading her eyes. If he's not too old for mountain air. Kara's laugh carried over the wind. Yeah, sure. Retirement research. Jess snorted. Only if there's a vending machine halfway up. The tension cracked, laughter echoing off the rocks before fading into the whistle of the wind. After a few uneventful setups, high angles, wide shots, steady road views, they reached a spot where the map was wrong. The road below hugged the mountain too tightly, nearly pressed against it like the hillside was reclaiming it. Guess the mountain didn't get the memo, Rube said. No one argued. They double-checked their notes, following the incline higher until they reached the biggest mark on the map. The bold red X circled twice. The kind of spot that screamed, "This means something." It was perfect. From here, the ridge commanded the valley, the winding road snaking below, 3 natural choke points where a single slide could lock the town in completely. If someone wanted to trap the whole valley, this was the perfect perch to start. Jess crouched beside the map, wind tugging at her hair. If they're working in patterns, this'll be next, she said. Rube nodded. Then let's make sure we're watching when it happens. By the time they reached the top, the sun had already dipped behind the mountain. Still daylight, but fading fast. The wind kicked dust in restless bursts, each one sharper than the last. The slope groaned under its own weight, and Quinn caught herself thinking, maybe the waitress was right. Maybe the rabbits weren't blocking them in. Maybe they were warning them to stop climbing. Old Volts idled in the turnout, its engine coughing like it was tired of the climb. Rube shut it off and stared at the ladder strapped to the roof with the deep spiritual hatred of a man who'd lost too many arguments to inanimate objects. Normal people use drones for this kind of thing, he said. Quinn didn't even look up. Normal people have money. We still owe for the last one. You know, the one that got crushed with Lorie in the slide. Jess leaned out the van window. All you have to do is ask for help, you know. Not like we're just a baby. Jess and Kara finished together, perfectly in sync and way too pleased with themselves. Rube sighed, glaring at the ladder like it had personally betrayed him. No, I got it, he muttered. Then, quieter. Still don't get why we're hauling a ladder up a mountain when the mountain's already tall enough. From the passenger seat, Kara called, It's good for you. You need the exercise anyway. Rube shot her a look that promised revenge in some undefined but satisfying future. They hiked the rest on foot, the ladder clanking between them like an unwanted bandmate. The trail narrowed to a wind-cut ledge, gravel sliding beneath every careful step. At the overlook, Quinn found a flat stretch of rock and started unpacking the gear. Rube planted the ladder and gave it a doubtful pat, still muttering under his breath. You really gotta tie it back on the roof again, he said. Or can we finally set it free? Let it live out here, be one with nature? Quinn adjusted the tripod, her voice dry. Maybe later I'll build it a memorial, but we're already getting a reputation for not returning things. Great, Rube said. I'll bring flowers. Kara's laugh echoed up from below, followed by the slam of van doors and the faint thump of tinny pop music fighting the wind. Don't take too long, Jess shouted. It's almost dark. The echo bounced through the canyon, a warning disguised as advice. They were as high as anyone could get on the mountain, the spine above the valley, where the air thinned, the clouds hung low, and everything below looked smaller than it had any right to. Quinn climbed the ladder, steadying the last camera against the twilight. The sky had gone from gold to bruise in a blink. Down below, the girls were still jamming in the van, the muffled pulse of pop music floating up the slope like a party trying to pretend the world wasn't unraveling. Rube stood below, one hand gripping the ladder as the wind swept dust across the ridge. He was grumbling under his breath. This was the dumbest plan yet. The ladder hated him, and if it fell, he was quitting whatever job this was supposed to be. Quinn tightened the last strap and smirked down at him. The ladder doesn't hate you. It just understands physics better than you do. He opened his mouth to shoot back, and stopped. She'd gone still, eyes locked past him. Down the slope, fur rippled through the dust, a long, deliberate wave of motion. White and brown shapes gliding in eerie sync, a living current cutting through the valley. Dozens of woolly rabbits, maybe hundreds, all moving single file. Each step measured, each pause shared. Rube squinted into the dim light. They in a parade or something? He said, voice cracking around a nervous laugh. Quinn didn't answer. She was already moving, boots crunching rock as she sprinted up the ridge to get a better view. Rube cursed, dropped the ladder, and ran after her. Gravel scattered under his boots as they swung around the last bend and stopped cold. The cliff edge opened beneath them, sheer and endless. The valley below shimmered in the dusk, rippling with movement. Right where their camera pointed, the ledge they'd just left, the line of rabbits was gathering. And this time, they weren't wandering, they were arranging. Rube caught his breath, eyes still tracking the shifting fur below. They sure look in a hurry, he said, maybe late for a meeting. Quinn's eyes didn't move from the slope. Then let's get closer and find out. If it's a meeting, if they're blocking us in, or if this is all just coincidence, let's prove it. Rube nodded, jaw set. Fine, let's get a pickup. Show the meeting. They moved slow, crouched low, each step placed between heartbeats. The air carried that hollow tension before a storm, dry and heavy, like the mountain was holding its breath. The herd below moved with a strange rhythm, the way murmurations of birds twist through air without sound or leader. They crept closer, hoping for one clear shot of the dark red rabbit, the same one from the quarry, the one that seemed to think. Then the ground cracked. A sound like thunder, too close, too alive. Quinn yelped. One step forward, and ledge gave way beneath her. She dropped fast, her shout cut off by a wall of sliding dirt. Not again. Rube lunged, fingers scraping rock, just missing her hand. He didn't think. Grounding lawyer, he shouted, somehow still his go-to rally cry, and dove feet first into the collapse after her. The mountain swallowed them both. The fall wasn't cinematic, it was violent, a blur of earth, roots, and pain. Rube tumbled through the darkness, clothes tearing, gloves shredding, rocks clawing at his sides. His flashlight slipped, spinning end over end through the chaos, light slicing through clouds of choking dust. He slammed into the bottom hard, air gone, ankles screaming lightning. The flashlight came to rest in the dirt beside him, its beam cutting through the haze and landing on Quinn. She was crumpled against the slope, motionless but breathing. Rube dragged himself forward, grit in his teeth, sliding on one knee until he reached her side. Quinn? He rasped, shaking her shoulder. Her eyelids fluttered. The beam of light quivered in his shaking hand, and somewhere deeper in the dark, something else moved. A scrape, a breath, claws. Rube's voice broke out between gasps, low and shaking. I knew this was a bad idea. We went too far this time. I'll never forgive my... He didn't finish. The words cracked, swallowed by the darkness. Then Quinn coughed, loud, alive, and the sound ripped through him like oxygen. He laughed, wild and breathless, the kind of laugh that comes when your body doesn't know if it's crying or celebrating. You should be paced right now, he said, half choked, half grinning. Then he saw it. Red fur on her sleeve, thick as moss, glowing faintly under the flashlight's beam. He followed the shimmer upward, and his stomach dropped. A shape filled the tunnel mouth, enormous, still. Dark red fur so deep it looked black until the light hit it. Eyes smoldering with that dull chemical green like a reactor on standby. The air itself seemed to tighten. Neither of them breathed. Rube's whisper cracked. Oh, great. Boss-level bunny. It didn't move, just stared, slow and deliberate, like something ancient pretending to be calm. The air buzzed with heartbeat-level quiet. Quinn's voice barely made it out, his name drawn thin, warning. The light trembled in Rube's hand. For a heartbeat, the world forgot how to move. The dust hung midair, the tunnel held still, and every second stretched too long. Then the rabbit tilted its head, sniffing. One step forward, another. Its massive nose pressed against Rube's chest, warm breath washing over him, steady, unsettlingly human. It exhaled, turned, and leapt away down another passage. The ground shook, dust collapsing in waves behind it. Then silence. Rube sat back, blinking grit from his eyes. Yeah, he muttered to no one in particular. Definitely a boss. Quinn reached over, flashlight still quivering in her hand, and steadied him. Together they crawled toward a faint glow ahead, one of the main burrow holes, the walls slick with fresh dirt and long, parallel claw marks. When they surfaced, the night air hit cold and sharp. The flashlight beam swept the rim of the hole, then stopped. A circle of predators lay scattered around it. Foxes, a hawk, even a red-gray wolf. None of them moved. Their bodies were twisted in stillness, eyes glassy, fur coated in a faint, chalky dust. Whatever had killed them hadn't torn or eaten. It had simply stopped them, like the life had been pulled clean out and the rest forgotten. Rube's voice came out thin. They're not sleeping, are they? Quinn didn't answer. She climbed out first, dirt sliding off her jacket, flashlight shaking just enough to make the shadows crawl. Watch your step here, she said quietly. She didn't look back when she said it. 20 minutes later, the adrenaline had burned out, leaving nothing but pain and ringing silence. Their clothes were torn, their faces streaked with dirt and dried blood. The forest hummed in the dark like it was thinking. Through the trees, they finally saw the shimmer of headlights. Old Volt sat crooked at the edge of the clearing, engine running on stubborn habit. Down the slope, they could just make out Kara and Jess inside, singing off-key, windows fogged, the glow of a phone screen lighting their laughter. Normal, untouchable. Like the world hadn't cracked open a mile behind them. Rube was limping. Quinn caught him by the arm, spun him gently until he faced her. He tried to joke, but the words got lost somewhere between his teeth. It caught me, she said. He frowned, brow creasing. Like, you fell on its back? Soft landing? She shook her head. No, I was falling, thinking this is it, I'm gone. Then something grabbed my back, flipped me. I was on it before I hit. I felt it land. It was soft. Their eyes met. Her face was pale, still wired with fear. Rube's cut above his brow had gone crusted red, but he didn't notice. He exhaled hard, a laugh that couldn't decide if it was relief or surrender. We've got to stop doing this, he said. Why do we keep ending up in holes chasing nightmares? Quinn's voice cracked. I don't know what I'd do if something actually happened to you. He started to answer, but she didn't let him. She pressed the towel against his forehead, then leaned in. Their kiss wasn't planned. It was desperate and slow, the kind you give when you realize the world could end between breaths. For one heartbeat, the forest, the dust, the monsters, all of it went quiet. Then static broke the spell. A faint voice crackled through the two-way radio clipped to Rube's belt, must have turned on in the fall. Test channels, confirm perimeter, multiple rings of protection. Another voice, closer, strained. Am I the only one finding dead scavengers out here? The chatter layered, scientists, cleanup crews, confusion bleeding through the noise. Quinn froze. She knew that voice. Her mother, Janice Renfield, the company's PR face, the woman who smiled through every lie. Please, the voice said through the static, just bag and tag. There's no confirmation the specimens are responsible for this. The radio squealed, distorted, like it didn't want to carry what came next. A man shouted, "Who left this radio on?" A burst of footsteps, panic, then silence. The radio cut dead. Rube and Quinn stared at it, then at each other. The headlights from Old Volts flickered once, like the van itself was holding its breath. Neither of them spoke. Only the forest did, quietly, somewhere in the dark, answering back with a low, distant thump underground. They broke through the brush at last, headlights flickering through the trees ahead. Kara was sitting on the hood of Old Volts, flashlight in one hand, sandwich in the other, looking far too relaxed for the end of the world. She spotted them first. Ooh, look who made the front page of Hot Mess Weekly. Jess leaned out the passenger window, phone already recording. Don't worry, she said. Private gallery only, present company's eyes only. She squinted, then laughed. Wait, why is he the one limping? Both girls burst into giggles. Rube rolled his eyes. Quinn almost smiled. For once, nobody mentioned the rabbits. She drove them home first, headlights carving thin lines through the dark. Later, just Quinn and Rube again, Back on the empty road, the town half asleep. No rabbit hordes this time, no barricades, no sound but the hum of tired tires. A kid rode figure eights in his driveway, scooter wheels squeaking like a heartbeat. His cape trailed behind him, a faded red scrap catching every bit of light. He started to sing to himself, half tune, half dare. Open quote, "The woolly rabbits are our friends. The woolly rabbits blocked us in. The woolly rabbits have a plan. The woolly rabbits will rule this land. If woolly rabbits are our friends, why do we put them in the lab again? But once we're truly trapped inside, the experiments begin to hide." Close quote. From inside the house, a voice called, "Timmy, it's dark out. Come in now." "Okay, Mom. Good night, woolly rabbits. We need you. Sorry the grown-ups don't understand." The screen door slammed. Silence. The rhyme drifted down the street, echoing between porches and power lines, part lullaby, part prophecy. Rube refused the hospital for now. Said he just wanted to crash, get checked in the morning. They'd visit Lorie then. She should be getting released. Quinn drove on in silence. The radio stayed dead. The fog thickened until the road ahead looked more like memory than pavement. She thought about calling her mother. She didn't. The headlights vanished into the mist. End of episode 7, Burrow Pressure. Like and subscribe. Keep them out of your town, but in your lives.